Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. The 1st of March was a sunny but cold day. I drove home from work after having the best day I have ever had at work. It was like a dream come true. I was wearing a black suit with a skirt that came just to my knees, a white shell, white nylons, and black patent leather pumps with bows and 2 tapered heels. How did this happen? At the beginning of last year, I, and it seems millions of other men who felt the same way, worked clothes that were usually only worn by women. We got dressed alone or in small groups of people who liked the same things. We made room for our ideas as best we could, keeping in mind that people we knew might find out and disapprove. We didn't know who else secretly wanted to be accepted. We didn't know what business, social, and government leaders wore to work in secret, if they did. It was amazing that a man could reach the highest office after being elected to public office for his whole life, including serving in the House of Representatives, without that skeleton in his closet being found out. He wouldn't have been the first political figure to think he could do whatever he wanted because he was surrounded by people who liked him and fed a steady diet of his own press clippings. He was found out in the summer of the 2nd year of his first term. We still don't know who in the White House was involved, or why. There were pictures of the president in a dress in the news. The Polaroids were good enough for experts to look at. Everyone who saw them agreed that they were real, and not a trick where the head of the president is put on the body of an actress. The story came out when news was slow and spread like a bomb. There were a lot of bad jokes about it right away. I, like a lot of other people, had to listen to the stories, criticisms, and jokes at work and keep my reactions in check. 2 days after the first report, a presidential press conference was set for that evening on the networks. On TV and in the office, everyone was talking about what he was going to do. Most people thought he would deny it and attack the story, but they didn't think that would work. But the people who talked about him didn't see many other options. Some people asked, so what if he's wearing a dress? But the noise of the story drowned them out. I think he and his handlers and operatives talked about similar things. It was no longer possible to say that the story wasn't true. Campaigns for all 435 seats in the House and all 33 Senate seats were in full swing. People from his party had been interviewed on TV, and their responses ranged from defensive to angry. What do you do in this situation? The speech was given that night in the press room of the White House. He was introduced by the press secretary. He walked into the room wearing a turquoise-skirted suit and pumps that went with it. Everyone was stunned. His wife came in with him, but she stood off to the side. As he walked, he was shown up close, and I could see that he was wearing earrings. He stood in front of the stage so that everyone could see that he was wearing a skirt. The clothes and accessories he was wearing were the same as what a woman in the Senate might wear. The press secretary took a microphone out of its place on the podium and gave it to the president. He got ready to speak and then did so. My fellow Americans, over the past 2 days, you've probably heard a lot of talk about me wearing women's clothes, which are clothes like dresses and skirted suits that women wear but men aren't expected to. You can see that I didn't come here to argue against this. Instead, I'm here to bring this conversation to a higher level. The way I'm dressed when I stand in front of you is not a reason to get rid of me. In fact, in the case Pricewaterhouse versus Hopkins from 1989, the Supreme Court ruled that harassing someone because they don't fit traditional stereotypes is against the law and breaks Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I'm willing to explain what I've been doing, since there seems to be some confusion in the public discussions. I like to wear what most people call women's clothes, but I don't want to have surgery to change my gender or live as a woman in any other way, a crossdresser, basically. I also don't want a romantic relationship with another man. My relationship with my wife is great, and I'd like to take this chance to thank her for her love and support. She has known for a long time that this is something I'm interested in and has helped me both by shopping for me and by helping me put together a good-looking outfit. During my campaign for this office, some people said that I was part of the white male elite establishment, that I had lived a privileged life, and that I could never know what it was like to be on the edge of society. As you're learning, the fact that I wear skirts puts me in a group that many people in society look down on. Because I've done this for so long, I've had a unique chance to see how the other half lives. I don't mind that my dressing got found out. This gives me a chance to make life better for a huge number of other Americans who wish they could wear dresses but think they can't because they are men. 50 years ago, people were judged by the color of their skin. We fought to stop that. Now I'm asking all Americans to stop judging people based on their skin color or whether they wear skirts or pants. Then he answered some questions from the news media. "How long have you been wearing dresses?" asked a woman. "Even at the state level, he has been a politician for a long time." A man was asked to come up. "What will change in your personal life now that this has happened? I will be able to shop for myself, thank you, and have a nice night." After saying that, he left. When the commentators came on after the speech, it seemed like they had no idea what was going on, and their prepared comments were no longer relevant. A few people with closed minds stuck to their strict condemnations, but they weren't getting anywhere with their fellow panelists. I sat on the couch in my black dress and red patent pumps and watched all of this. I felt hopeful for the first time since the story came out. I looked at my toes and thought about how they would shine in the sun. The next day, I went to work and listened to people talk. Some of the people who made fun of the president over the past 2 days were less bold now, but others were just as sure of themselves. But a lot more people who liked the president, cross-dressers, or in general spoke up. The media also had less confidence in themselves. In the days that followed, some news outlets started teaching people about the differences between cross-dressers, drag queens, transgenders, and more. Also, because the experts were less sure of themselves, there were a lot of interviews with regular people. There were many different points of view, but I saw that more women than men were open-minded about it. I thought that was interesting, but I had to keep in mind that this was a very small sample. Just before Labor Day, a national support group for cross-dressers asked all men who supported the president to wear a dress or skirt to work on September 16th. Take a stand day was what they called it. They were smart to link it to support for the president, because then anyone who took part could say, "I don't usually dress like this, but I'm showing my support for the president." Still, it was dangerous. I was terrified that I would be the only man in the company to show up in a dress, so I decided not to take part. A few men in the group did dress up on the 16th. One of them was Vice President. He had on a black skirted suit and black shoes with pointed toes. I had never talked to the man one-on-one, but I felt bad that I hadn't helped him. I felt bad about not going through with it when I got home. I usually don't watch the 11 o'clock news, but I did this time to see if there was anything about Take a Stand Day. In some interviews, men who were dressed as women said they supported the president and wanted people to be more open-minded. Journalists seemed to think that the day was not a failure for the people who planned it, but neither was it a huge success. A spokeswoman for the company said that the company's policy was to provide a workplace that was accepting of differences, and that policy would be followed. The next day at work, many of the people who had said a lot about how bad cross-dressers were the day before had a lot less to say. The news about the harassment and the fact that some important men in the company were seen in skirts has given them a little more sense. They started to realize that they didn't know for sure if any man they talked to was also a cross-dresser. The argument went on until October. Several commentators, both men and women, began to wonder why it was okay for women to wear men's clothes, but not for men to wear dresses. Only in a few congressional races was it helpful for the other party to say that the president was wearing a skirt. No one was even stupid enough to try in the cities. There was a show on PBS that talked in depth about gender issues. At one point, they talked to a psychologist and asked him how many cross-dressers were straight. "We don't know," was his answer. "We don't have a number to divide by. We don't know how many men do this behind closed doors, or how many men want to do it but are afraid to get the clothes." I read the financial news because I have money in the stock market. Retailers were very excited about the idea of getting men to wear clothes with colors and skirt lengths that come and go out of style. The idea that men might be able to wear women's clothes in public pushed up the stock prices of two major women's clothing stores by more than 10% since July. The cross-dressing support group thought that one last push could make a difference, so they called for another Take a Stand Day the day before Election Day. After what happened last time, there was no way I could miss this one. I chose a blue suit with a skirt and a pair of two-heeled bone pumps. Every weekend in October, I walked around inside as much as I could in my 5 red pumps so I could get used to them. I knew that at least one woman would say it if I ever took my shoes off at work. I chose to wear a simple necklace and earrings made of silver. The big day finally came. I put on my clothes, shoes, and jewelry. When I reached for my wallet, phone, and keys, I suddenly realized I didn't have any pockets. What's next? I didn't have a bag. I just couldn't give up. I put everything in my briefcase and went to work. When I got home, I put my wallet in my desk and locked it. I had to walk around all morning with my keys in my hand. As I walked around the office, people said things like, "Wow, look at you." Some of the women said it. I didn't expect so many men to be dressed. Styles were very different. Some were pretty plain and a few were kind of skanky. I saw more than one mini skirt and a lot of heels. My manager and a few other men in my department were dressed. This last thing surprised me. I hardly knew my VP. A woman was in charge of me. But my boss was kind of blunt and straight to the point. In his spare time, he fixed up cars. He went hunting after deers. I don't know if my mind just couldn't put the pictures together or if it was because he was a person in charge who I had spent a lot of time with. He was dressed right, with a blouse, an A-line skirt in khaki and black flats. But it was hard for me to get used to him being dressed. I went up to Candace, a coworker who had said something nice late in the morning and said, "I need some help." "What for?" "I have to buy a purse during lunch. Are you going to come and help?" Candace agreed right away and offered to drive. She offered to carry my wallet until I got one of my own in her purse. We went to a shopping center close by. I asked her how she chose colors. Her answer was that black goes with everything. I reached for a small black purse with a squared-off bottom, but Candace shook her head. "You can't fit everything you want to bring in there." She found me a black bag with thicker shoulder straps and more space inside. We bought it, and then we went to eat. She asked me a lot of things. She asked me how often I changed my clothes. Even though I have a lot of clothes, this was the first time I wore one out in public. "What's it like?" "It's exciting and kind of scary. You'll find that most women's clothes are a pain." Since I didn't have to sit with my keys in my lap, I was able to enjoy the afternoon more. Candace stopped by on her way out. "How are your feet?" "They are all right." "How come?" "Those shoes? At home, I wear higher heels. These aren't any worse than the dress shoes I have for men." She looked at me with a mix of confusion and shock on her face. The press said that day that it was a huge success for the person who put it on. Many people were surprised to hear that a lot of men, especially corporate officers, went to work dressed. The next day, a lot of people went to vote. No matter why, the president's party gained 9 seats in the House and kept the same number of seats in the Senate. Cross-dressing was still talked about in the news, but the tone changed, and you could tell. Just before Thanksgiving, ads for women's stores started showing men how to dress and fit better. I thought we were finally getting somewhere. In December, several business groups got together for a summit. At the end of the meeting, the people there said that men who wanted to wear skirts or dresses to work could start doing so on March 1st of the next year. This would give companies with dress codes time to make changes to their rules to account for this. Most other businesses followed this lead without saying so. So March 1st became known as the big day. Of course, many men didn't wait and were already ahead of the curve in fashion, art, and entertainment. In January, a group that helps people who cross-dress started a web-wide circular. They knew that carelessness or overconfidence could still turn a win into a loss, so they gave advice to people who wanted to take advantage of the new freedom. By the 3rd week of February, I was going crazy with excitement because I couldn't wait for the month to be over. Men's sizes were everywhere in the shoe stores, and I found the black patent tuxedo pumps I'd always wanted to wear. I thought about my first outfit for days, but once I found those pumps, I knew they would be a part of it. I chose my black suit in the end. If I wore white socks with my new shoes, they would stand out more. It was like a dream come true on March 1st. I was going to go about my everyday life dressed up, and that was fine. Even though nothing important happened at work, it was a great day. Candace dressed for the event in a green sweater and taupe pumps. I asked her about it, and she said, "Well, I have to be competitive." Then she came over to me and put her hands on the outsides of my knees, pushing them together. "Michael, you need to learn how to sit right if you want to wear a skirt." I stopped on my way home to look at some shoes. Anytime is a good time to buy shoes. I can't wait until I can wear a skirt to work for the first time. The store was having a sale. If you bought 2 pairs, the 3rd pair was half off. They had heels in my size, and even better, they came in different colors. I picked up a size 4 pump and asked about the colors: red, royal blue, lilac, bright green, yellow, and fuchsia. Yes, they were also made of real leather, and they were soft and beautiful. If I can't wear them to work, so what? There will be more than one chance I left with all 6 of them. A great way to end a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.